The high ceilings of Lincoln Ridge Middle School echoed with chatter, the clatter of shoes on linoleum, and the occasional shrill laughter of students letting off steam between classes. Most people didn't notice the girl who silently swept the floors in the early morning or emptied trash bins after school. Her name was Emma, and her father, Mr. Ramirez, had worked as the school's janitor for over 10 years. His hands were always rough from cleaning chemicals, but his heart was tender, especially for his daughter. Emma was quiet. She wasn't the type to push her way into a conversation or demand the spotlight. She walked the halls with her books, hugged tightly to her chest, her long dark hair hiding her face as she listened carefully to every lesson. She didn't have new clothes or fancy gadgets. She wore the same shoes for 3 years straight and used a borrowed phone with a cracked screen. But her eyes held a quiet fire. At Lincoln Ridge, music class was reserved for the gifted students, the ones whose parents donated to the arts program or who had taken private lessons since kindergarten. The orchestra room gleamed with polished violins, cellos, and brass, instruments resting in velvet-lined cases. Emma often paused by its door after school, peeking in as Mr. Ramirez mopped the adjacent hallway. She'd stare, wide-eyed, at the way the students moved their bows or the way the sound of strings seemed to dance in the air. One Friday afternoon, as the music class ended, Mr. Thompson, the music teacher, noticed Emma watching. He smirked and turned to Ms. Blake, another teacher standing beside him. "Think she wants to join the orchestra?" he whispered sarcastically. Ms. Blake chuckled. "Only if she plays the mop like a violin." Their laughter echoed louder than intended, and Emma heard every word. "Hey, Emma!" Mr. Thompson called out. "Want to give it a try?" He held up a violin with a crooked smile. "Here, show us what you got." The few students still packing up paused to watch. Some snickered, already guessing the outcome. Emma hesitated, then slowly walked into the room. She gently took the violin, brushing her fingers over the wood, like it was something sacred. Her father watched from the hallway, his mop still in his hand, unsure of what was happening. The teachers expected her to fumble, to embarrass herself, maybe even cry. But then Emma closed her eyes. She raised the bow, her posture changing completely. She looked calm, almost graceful. Then she began to play. The room fell silent. Emma had never held a real violin before, but for years she had watched tutorials on the library computer, read sheet music in her spare time, and practiced finger positions on a ruler at home. Her father had once brought home a broken violin from the trash, and she had spent nights trying to fix it, listening to recordings and mimicking the motions with what little she had. And now in front of everyone, the melody that came from her hands was hauntingly beautiful. It wasn't just music, it was a story, her story. The notes trembled with hope and pain, with the yearning of someone who had waited too long to be seen. Her fingers danced across the strings like they were born to do just that. The students stopped mid-laugh. Ms. Blake's smile vanished. Mr. Thompson stood frozen, his face slack with disbelief. When Emma finished, there was a silence so deep it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Mr. Ramirez took a step forward, unsure whether to be proud or worried. Emma looked down, suddenly embarrassed, and handed the violin back. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" "No," Mr. Thompson interrupted. "Wait, where did you learn to play like that?" I didn't. Not really," she stammered. "I watched videos and practiced with a broken one at home." Ms. Blake stepped forward, her voice softer now. "You've never taken lessons?" Emma shook her head. Something changed in that room. That moment cracked open a wall that had stood between Emma and everyone else. Over the weekend, word spread. By Monday morning, the whole school knew about the janitor's daughter who played the violin like a prodigy. Some students were jealous, others curious, but most were simply awestruck. Mr. Thompson, now carrying a mixture of guilt and amazement, approached Mr. Ramirez and Emma that afternoon. "We'd like to offer Emma private lessons. No cost. We can arrange for an instrument too." Mr. Ramirez looked hesitant. We can't pay." "You don't have to," Mr. Thompson insisted. "She has talent, real talent. I'd be honored to help her grow it. Over the next few months, Emma blossomed. With each lesson, her skills deepened. The music department even fundraised to send her to a summer music camp in New York. Students, who once ignored her, now nodded in the halls or invited her to lunch. Teachers treated her with newfound respect. But none of this changed who Emma was. Every afternoon, she still waited for her father to finish work so they could walk home together. She still helped carry his supplies and still studied late into the night on their kitchen table covered with scratchy notebooks and textbooks. When she was offered a full scholarship to a prestigious arts high school in the city, she turned it down at first. "I can't leave my dad," she told Mr. Thompson. When he found out, Mr. Ramirez sat her down. "Mija, don't ever dim your light for me. I clean floors so you can reach higher than I ever could." With tears in her eyes, Emma hugged him, tighter than she ever had before. She accepted the scholarship. The day she left for the city, nearly the entire school came out to say goodbye. Even the principal, who rarely interacted with students one-on-one, gave her a warm handshake and wished her well. 3 years passed. Lincoln Ridge's auditorium was packed. They had organized a special event, an arts fundraiser, and the headliner was none other than Emma Ramirez. Now a scholarship student at Juilliard, she had performed internationally and was gaining fame as a young violinist with extraordinary heart. The teachers who once laughed at her now sat in the front row, wearing their finest clothes, waiting for her to appear. When Emma stepped onto the stage, she wore a simple black dress and carried the same broken violin she had once fixed by hand. The crowd erupted into applause, but she raised her hand for silence. "I want to tell you a story," she began softly, "about a girl who was invisible, about a girl who cleaned classrooms with her father and dreamed about music in secret." The audience leaned in. One day, that girl was mocked, asked to play violin as a joke, but instead of laughing with the crowd, she played from the heart, and everything changed. Emma's voice trembled slightly, but her gaze was steady. "I wouldn't be here today without the kindness of a few people who chose to believe in me after that moment. And I owe it all to my father, the man who taught me that dignity isn't about what you wear or what you own, but how you treat people." She then turned to her father, sitting in the front row, his eyes glassy with pride. "This is for you, Papa." And she played. The auditorium held its breath as the music flowed, this time richer, more powerful than ever. It wasn't just skill, it was soul. Each note told a story of resilience, of love, of humanity. And by the time she finished, even the most stoic attendees were dabbing their eyes. The ovation lasted nearly 10 minutes. After the performance, Mr. Thompson approached her backstage. "I was wrong about you," he said. "I judged you before I even knew you." Emma smiled kindly. "Most people do that, but it's what they do afterward that matters." He nodded slowly, humbled. Later that night, as they packed up, Emma sat beside her father outside the building under the stars. "Do you remember that first day?" she asked. "I remember every day," he replied. "But that one, when you played that violin for the first time, I knew the world had changed." Emma rested her head on his shoulder. "I want to use my music to help kids like me. Kids who are invisible. I want them to know they matter." Mr. Ramirez looked at her, his heart full. "You've already started?" In the years that followed, Emma founded a music foundation that offered instruments and lessons to children from low-income families. Her concerts raised money for schools across the country. She spoke at events about kindness and equality, about believing in people before judging them. And in every audience, there were always people who came to see the janitor's daughter, the girl who had once been a joke and became a symbol of hope. Her music echoed not just in concert halls, but in hearts. A melody that reminded everyone that greatness can come from the most unexpected places, and that all it takes is one moment of kindness to change a life forever.